format of current issues and politics. Thank you, Reverend Walra.
Oh, yes.
Thank my executive producer, Fatim Muhammad, technical producer, Lee Majors. And don't forget, get signed up. We got a few seats left. National Action Network Convention. You need to be there. 1-877-626-4651 or www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Don't forget tonight and every night, Monday through Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Central Time, Politics Nation with Al Sharpton. I'll be live on MSNBC. And remember, whatever you do, wherever you go, however you feel, tell somebody, Reverend Al told you personally, keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real. Talk to you tomorrow.
Keep it real. Keeping it real.
The views and opinions expressed on this broadcast are not necessarily those of either WGCV 620 AM, its staff or management, or our parent company, Glory Communications Incorporated.
Get ready. Armstrong Williams is up next on WGCV 620 AM, where knowledge is power.
I knew something had to give. I was overweight, I didn't exercise, and my doctor told me I would most likely develop diabetes if something didn't change. Fortunately, I joined a program that helped me make healthier choices like eating better and being more active. The group experience was really inspiring. We dealt with challenges many of us were facing and shared ideas on how to overcome them. The YMCA's Diabetes Prevention Program was a wake-up call that really changed my life.
According to the Centers for Disease
the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get to Henry's at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food, Henry's soul food. What we need, soul food. Henry's soul food.
Welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show, brought to you by Golden Crust Bakery, the fastest growing Caribbean-owned franchise in the United States. Golden Crust is committed to the delivery of quality food and excellent customer service. Visit them today at goldencrustbakery.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Milo Pinckney, how are you today? Milo's not there. Dan Morheim, how are you? Welcome to the show. Delicate Dan Morheim.
Hello?
How are you doing, sir? Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Horace Cooper, how are you today, sir?
Excellent. Always a pleasure to come on your show.
Well, I love excellence. I love excellence. So, listen, we're going to talk about affordable care today. It seems to be on everyone's mind, and we certainly want to do our share of talking about it in a different way. I'm more interested in why people are so up in arms about affordable care. Let me welcome everyone to the show. Hello, everyone. I'm Armstrong Williams. And yes, we are live. We are live. We are live, and glad to be live. You know, I just want to talk about why so many people are just so indecisive about it. It's interesting because one of the biggest challenges of the Affordable Care Act is the fact that it is not affordable. With each passing day, more details are revealed in a 2,500-page monstrosity that is a bureaucrat's dream, but actually a patient's nightmare. And the cost of insurance per family is supposed to drop significantly, but instead has gone up by more than $2,500 per family. The number of physicians in a recent survey that are planning early retirement because of the Affordable Care Act has risen to 60%. Not only is there an issue of money, but there's also an issue of who's going to care for the additional 30 million people who have been placed on the societal rolls. And one of the major pillars, in my opinion, of our current healthcare systems are insurance companies that profit by denying people care. No one should profit in any business by denying someone care. This is a fundamental conflict of interest that has not been addressed in a meaningful way in the Affordable Care Act. Unless we address these fundamental flaws, we're truly just wasting time and money. And another glaring omission is tort reform, which was excluded because the Trial Lawyers Association is a very powerful lobby with great influence over not only this administration, but all administrations. And so the fear of malpractice suits leads to defensive medicine, which drives the cost up for everyone in a very significant manner. And also medical malpractice lawsuits jog our legal system and negatively impact medical resources, which must spend time addressing cases which in the vast majority of instances are found to have no merit. So let me start with you, Delegate Morheim. Talk about, and Delegate Morheim was first elected to the Maryland House of Delegates in 1994. He is the Deputy Majority Leader in the House, and he serves on the Health and Government Operations Committee. Welcome to the show. And talk about how can we make it work for the patient? How can we make it work for the everyday citizen? What must we do?
Well, thank you, Armstrong. Good to be with you. You did not mention that I'm a career physician, board certified in internal and emergency medicine. So I see this not only from the perspective of a state legislator, and we're a citizen legislator in Maryland. That means we're part-time. We all have jobs. But also as a person who's been on the front line at healthcare in a level 2 trauma center emergency room as well as other locations. Also on the faculty of the Hopkins School of Public Health. Let me just make a couple of points. These are all good questions. I'm glad we're having this discussion. I don't agree with you that people are up in arms. In fact, many people are supportive. I do agree with you that many people are indecisive. They're not sure what all of this is, and like any piece of legislation, and I've been in the legislature 19 years in Maryland, it's very rare that you have what might be called a perfect piece of legislation. And there are lots of this bill that I think is really excellent, and there are a few parts that are less good and some that are missing. I'd agree with you about tort reform, for example. But you got to look at our current healthcare system. We have simultaneously the best and the worst. We have simultaneously the best, great, wonderful advances in technology, medical miracles, people being cured of diseases that years ago, or not too many years ago, even they would have died of. And at the same time, we have some of the worst. Significant healthcare disparities, especially in the minority community. Families one illness away from bankruptcy. People unable to get health care, and too many people come into the emergency room where I've worked, with problems that should have been dealt with before. I mean, it's really a question of we're paying for it now. It's like the oil filter ad. You pay now or you pay later, but we're going to pay for it. And the question is, what's the way? Many people would say the current system is unaffordable. I've also built and ran a business. I used to write the premium checks for our health insurance, and I know what it is to try and grow a small business and pay health insurance premiums. It's a significant problem for our small businesses. I'm going to make a couple of points and then throw it back to you, but I want to emphasize a couple things. Regardless of the system, whether you have a national single-payer system or a free-for-all open market, there are some core clinical drivers that drive healthcare regardless, and we're going to have to deal with them. And they are end-of-life care. 35% of Medicare is end-of-life care, and we're going to have to I can talk about that some more. The problems of addictions, both legal and illegal, they drive a huge amount of healthcare costs. Obesity and lifestyle, and what might be called preventable trauma. When I started emergency medicine years ago, the worst, every shift I would sew a forehand laceration or worse from a minor fender bender, thanks to car design, seat belts, airbags. That just doesn't happen. And the worst night in my life as a doctor was taking care of 3 kids killed in a car accident because they weren't restrained in seat buckets as they are now. I've had injuries now, namely the broken hip in an older person, that can be easily avoided for a couple $100 worth of safety proofing a home. We got to deal with these core clinical drivers because there isn't enough money unless we confront them and deal with them as a society. Let me just say one more thing about end-of-life care. There are forms called advance directives, free, legal, straightforward forms available everywhere in the United States for over 20 years. And we did the study at Johns Hopkins. Only 30% of Americans, 35%, have completed those forms. That would direct care according to your own personal values, whatever they may be, under whatever circumstances your life is. But we have collectively, in a culture that advocates for individual rights and freedom, abdicated filling out that paperwork. We just haven't done the paperwork. And that's shame on us. So there are things that can happen. I think there are a lot of good things about the Affordable Care Act. I think it's helped a lot of people. Kids on 26 stay on their parents' plan. It subsidized a lot of businesses. But we're going to have to do some things otherwise. The other big problem is the for-profit insurance companies that are basically making a lot of money on all of this, instead of money going to the people on the front lines of healthcare like me and my colleagues and nurses and tech staff who work 24/7, 365, being the safety net in healthcare today.
Horace?
Well, I appreciate the comments. I clearly commend the doctor for being willing to step up and participate on the front line. But I'm going to have to challenge a lot of what was just said. We operate under 2 fundamental myths when it comes to healthcare policy in America. The first myth is that we actually can design a system that is going to give every single American, or if not every single American, over 99% of them, quality health care. That is a myth, and as long as we are fastidiously stuck to that myth, we continue to pursue policy changes that distort the market, distort resources, and change expectations in a way that simply can't be met. The second is a second myth, which is almost as pernicious, and that is that the practitioners themselves, the doctors in the medical field, are the best conduit for assessing whether or not the adequacy of the care that a given system provides is operating in a proper way. And by that I simply mean we don't actually let teachers decide whether or not the educational system is functioning properly. They may have some input in the matter, but we understand that that's an entire community's decision to work through. In any other context, we don't let the car salesman, we don't let the lawyers, we don't let the you name the category, they don't actually get to police themselves and decide whether or not they are accurately, adequately, and proficiently providing the services that they do. And so what we have is these 2 mythologies that are operating, and we don't see anywhere on the planet, that we can start with America, but we can go to Canada, we can go to France, we can go to United Kingdom. We don't see anywhere on the planet where the overwhelming majority of the population is satisfied with the kind of care that many of the progressives have been asking us to move toward, a more collective provisioning of care, at which we try to separate individual responsibility, individual behavior, and individual payment of costs for the care that they receive.
Horace, hold there. We're coming back. I'm Armstrong Williams. Milo, I see, is finally joining us. He's on the line. Dan K. Marham, medical doctor. Horace Cooper, Milo Pinckney. We'll be back.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Crust's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean, only at a Golden Crust near you. A family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrustBakery.com.
For
more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. What does it mean to be conservative? Freedom of speech, freedom of free enterprise, freedom of assembly, less government, less taxes. As a matter of fact, a flat tax. Everyone should pay proportional tax. It doesn't matter whether you make $100 million or $10,000. Everyone should pay their 10%. Everyone should have something at stake in this American economy. I'm Armstrong Williams expressing what we mean by conservative traditional value.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back as we take a very civil and fair-minded look at affordable care with our guests, Dr. Dan Morheim and Horace Cooper. Milo, I don't know how much of the conversation you were able to hear, but we'd like to have your input after listening at both discussions.
Well, Armstrong, I heard most of it. I actually joined you at 4:02. Sorry for my tardiness today. Briefly, having served as CEO of Hinsdale Medical for 11 years from 1992 to 2003. And working very closely in the healthcare as one of the leading MSOs in the business, one of the things that we learned about healthcare was illustrated by both of our guests today, and that is that there is no definitive answer to provide a solution to the growing healthcare problems that face this country. The Affordability Care Act has some good points in it. No one can dispute the intent of the bill. However, there's some real practical limitations that are evidence in its absence of forethought and its actual deliverability. The idea that physicians are our best choice to guide and direct the healthcare delivery system has proven over and over again to be an incorrect assumption. And the idea that a insurance company administrator is the ideal person is equally flawed. I think so that both of our guests make very salient points, none of which can be ignored. But the net result of all of this is that we need to look at healthcare in what it is. We cannot deliver free healthcare to everybody. We can't even deliver healthcare of equal quality to everybody. And the reality of it is, I question whether or not that is a practical or realistic objective.
In fact, what we should be doing is figuring out how best to provide the best quality of health care to the broadest cross-section of the population, with the understanding that any service received by a service recipient has to be paid for in some manner, shape, or form. And that by default of that, everybody's not going to get the equivalent care, and quite frankly, I don't know that they necessarily should. In addition to that, to those thoughts, I would suggest that, we have one of the best systems in the world. We have flaws in it, no question about it. But overall, we are still delivering a higher quality of care to a greater number of people than most everywhere else on the planet. And I know that there are those that will say that Canada has exceeded us, that Cuba has a better quality system. But when you look at the numbers of people that these systems are servicing, they really don't stand up to ours.
Dr. Moore.
Yeah, interesting point. I mean, look, I did say we have the best and the worst simultaneously, and I think that's true. We clearly spend the most of any country in the world by a significant amount, and we also clearly, on any number of measures of health, rank, pretty far down the list. Now, you can pick any statistics you want, I know, and manipulate them, but overall, for the amount of money we're spending, we're not getting the bang for the buck. I would take just a couple of comments. Can we design a system? I don't think if we started and said, let's design the system we have, that anybody would want to design the current system. And so the question is, by degrees, can we change what we have and make it better? I certainly appreciate that President Obama, and I generally support the Affordable Care Act, despite its flaws, and I'll say again, no legislation is perfect, for bringing this discussion up, because the current system is unaffordable, untenable, has too many flaws and too many disparities between what people can get and what they need. We also don't invest in prevention. Clearly, a major area to extend life and reduce health care costs. We don't, promote personal responsibility. If just everybody who's listening to this today made sure that they and their family members completed an advance directive, free legal paperwork, we'd save a ton of money, and we'd be saving it the right way, according to individual choice and responsibility. But if you haven't done that, shame on you. You need to take care of that kind of paperwork. And I know talking about death and dying and end-of-life care is hard. But we do have some models of some systems in the United States that work pretty well, not perfectly. I've served at the VA hospital as a physician. It's pretty good. It's not perfect. Medicare is certainly, in effect, a single-payer system for people over age 65. By and large, it works reasonably well. Most people are okay with it. It doesn't get everything for everybody every time. Physicians generally get paid. The overhead for Medicare is about 3%. The overhead for private insurance, commercial insurance, which is a for-profit enterprise, and believe me, that's what they're interested in, number one, is about 25%. So you're paying a lot for private insurance profit. The other thing I would ask, and I think this is a fair question that comes up with the employers I deal with, is why do we tie health insurance to where you work? Why should employers be burdened with the challenge of paying for health insurance? It's a leftover from pre-World War II days, and I think we need to take a fresh look at that, because big businesses can afford more, smaller businesses can't afford as much. You shouldn't be tied to your job because you have health insurance. You should be free, get any job you want and start a new business and have your health insurance go with you. And that's why the insurance exchange portion of the Affordable Care Act is a good thing.
We have a system in America where our health care system is the most illogical business model ever.
We agree.
We have a system where the service provider, the service recipient, and the payer have no direct relationship with one another. The doctor's customer is not the patient. The doctor's customer is the insurance company. The insurance company's customer is not the patient. The insurance company's customer is the employer. The employer doesn't care about the quality of care the patient gets. All they're concerned with is what is the cost of delivering it, since it's an obligation of employment.
I think some employers care about the care their employees get, but go on.
Overall, I'm sure there are some that do, but
don't make blanket statements at that.
Yeah,
but the incentives, as Milo points out, it's the incentives. The employer isn't incentivized to care about the employee. The employer is incentivized to care about what he's paying for this obligation, and that distorts his behavior.
That's why I'm asking the fundamental question: why is health insurance tied to employment?
Well,
what if you work 2 part-time jobs? What if you're an entrepreneur? You want to go out and start your own business? The health insurance exchange portion allows individuals to get into the same large buying pool that those who work for large businesses, they get that advantage. I think that's a step in the right direction.
Well, if we're going to get into a debate about the exchange, because I think that's an entirely wrong direction, that's one of the worst things about our present healthcare system is the monopsony, the single provider and using multiple sources, whether it's Medicare, whether it's VA,
but you can get any provider, let's be clear.
That's not the model.
HMOs limit the provider you can go to. The health insurance exchange does not.
So do PPA,
to the extent that they're
management, third-party manager.
morphing now into form, they haven't really taken shape yet.
Can someone turn up Milo's mic?
No, go ahead, Horace.
I said any time we have a third party in administrating the health care, there's going to be some gatekeeper functionality existing in the model. That's just a given, because you have to validate your existence. But the reality of it is that when we look at the net effect, the best time of health care in this country was when you selected your doctor, you went to your doctor, and you paid your doctor cash. And if you didn't have the money to pay the bill, you said to your doctor, "Doc, I can give you $10 a week until I get you straight." And your doctor worked with you that way because he had a relationship with you.
Well, as a physician, I certainly appreciate the nostalgia of those days, and to some extent, I actually apply that today. But the technology of healthcare costs is such that if you get hit by a car on the way home, I hope not. You're going to and you go to a trauma center, you're going to have $25,000 to $50,000 worth of bills because that's what it costs.
The problem is
the other part is prescription medicines cost a lot more.
Doc, it's not
I
what
actually happen to be a fan of prescription medicines because I think they're keeping people happier, longer, more productive lives and staying out of hospitals. But many of them are very costly.
Doc, that is not what it costs. The reality of it is the majority of costs associated with the provision of care in hospital are inflated at a multiple of 5 to 7 to 1.
I'm not going to disagree with you there. There's a lot of stuff there that could be.
So it's not the real cost.
Okay.
I grew up in the household where my father was an OBGYN, and I remember the days when my father would get up, 2 o'clock in the morning and go to a patient's home because the patient called and said that she was spotting. And that was because he was vested in his patient, and his patient paid him directly. There was a direct relationship. My wife had an ectopic pregnancy years back, and the doctor that was providing her care sent her to the emergency room and had a resident come here, and then was upset that I had the audacity to send somebody to his house to bring him to the hospital.
Well, I mean, these are interesting anecdotes, and I'm not going to try to defend what somebody else did in some other circumstance. But generally,
the issue is not defending
right now,
the issue is
they couldn't afford to pay. I mean, that's the idea of insurance. So this idea of home insurance. The reason you get home insurance is if your house burns down, you're part of a collective pool, or car insurance if you get in a car accident, because most of us probably couldn't afford the out-of-pocket expense, and we're a large pool. I think a lot of our intent.
Doc, I appreciate you.
I think
obvious, but
we need to emphasize prevention. We need to deal with personal responsibility and the life care. Addiction is a huge cost to health care. It doesn't always counted that way. I'm a strong supporter of addiction treatment programs. Some people need to be locked up, but I'm a strong supporter of addiction treatment programs. Having worked in an inner-city trauma center in Baltimore City, I've seen the ravages, which occur on many levels, not just healthcare costs and infectious disease, but spiritual damage, family trauma, kids growing up in terrible households. And you can treat addiction pretty well, at least as well as high blood pressure, diabetes, and asthma.
Addiction is a voluntary
pretty well. Let's just only go for pretty well, not perfect.
Addiction is a voluntary illness. People who suffer from
Milo, let Horace go, because Horace is leaving us at the bottom of the half hour, and both you guys.
My only observation is, and I'm much more sympathetic to the points that Milo is making, precisely because I believe that we, as a matter of policy, separate or use the policies to distort the notion between personal responsibility and the cost and provisioning of care. To the degree that policies separate those two, you create all kinds of market distortions and all kinds of problems. What of the Affordable Care Act is it takes that concept and it expands upon it. We need to be doing the exact opposite.
Horace, thank you.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong-Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong-Williams.
And welcome back to the Armstrong-Williams Show. We're now joined by Celia Bigelow, is a recent graduate of Hillsdale College and a leader in the conservative youth movement. Ms. Bigelow, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us.
Yes, thanks for having me on.
Let me just say, Milo and Dr. Morheim, where are the areas of agreement? Because I don't want people to get lost in this affordable care discussion that we've had, because I've heard many tenets where you both agree. Can we talk about that a little? Because it's so easy to talk about where we disagree, and what can we do to sort of make that workable for the rest of the country? Because in this conversation, it's obvious that the affordable care has some serious flaws. I mean, listen, doctors are going to the concierge plan. Many of them cannot afford the Medicaid payouts anymore. Some of them are going to try to hang in there, but most of the doctors, there was a survey that came out today that 6% are going to retire. It's going to be many, many more people trying to gulp up these few doctors that are left. There are going to be longer lines for procedures, and it just created nightmarish situations for physicians and nurses at the hospital. So what are the areas of agreement? We'll start with you, Doctor.
That's a good question. Let me say first that the challenges of lack of physicians or number of physicians predated the Affordable Care Act. So please, I don't think you can do a cause and effect. Secondly, it's important to recognize that everybody gets health care in the United States anyways, because they can always go to an emergency room, where I spent my clinical career, and we, working 24/7,
room. Do you understand the
365.
cost of going to the emergency room?
I think maybe where we can agree, hopefully, is that a greater connection between personal responsibility and healthcare outcomes is important. I think a greater awareness of the costs of healthcare under our current system or an evolved one that everybody is aware of and has some responsibility for is important. I think that we hopefully will agree that a medical home, that is, that patients having a relationship with a physician and a nurse and a physician assistant and providers in general rather than bouncing all over the place, I hope we'd agree that would be a good thing. And I hope we would agree that some of these core clinical drivers that I mentioned, end-of-life care, preventable trauma, addiction, and lifestyle obesity are things that we ought to figure out how to do. Emergency rooms are 80% of hospital admissions. Between 60 to 80% of patients who are in a hospital go through the emergency room, so I know what's going into the hospital. And part of the reason I'm a part-time politician is because so much of what I was seeing had a root cause. And if you deal with the root causes, you can get rid of a lot of the expense later. Isn't it cheaper to have people take their blood pressure medicine than to have a stroke? Isn't it better for them to not smoke than to get lung cancer? That kind of thing. It seems simple, but these are still basically the things that cost a lot of money and could be avoided, and our system needs to do that. Last thing I'd say is I think we need to support the actual people doing the work. That is the doctors, the nurses, the paramedics, the techs, all the people in the system. The big money in healthcare is made by for-profit insurance companies and administrative people and not the people actually doing the work. Maybe one other thing we agree on,
Milo?
We maybe could separate the employer from having to be the responsible party for health insurance. I just don't think it makes any more sense that you run a small business, you're now responsible for the health insurance. I think we need to separate that and figure out another way how to do it.
Milo?
Well, I think on one thing that we clearly agree on is that there should be no direct tie between the provision of health care and employers. Health care should not be a obligation of the employer. So on that we agree. I think fundamentally we agree on personal accountability and the value of preventative care. I would take it a step further to say that there are certain areas of health care that do not belong in the public sector. Addiction is a self-inflicted illness, and the cost of provision of care for addicted individuals should rest with those addicted individuals. I also think the same is true from behaviorally adapted illnesses like HIV. Not to say that all cases are the function of behavior, but in the cases where sexual proclivity, intravenous drug use, and other personal controllable behaviors lead to these illnesses, those liabilities should be borne exclusively by the person suffering from the illness and not be a public sector issue.
Celia, you're listening to this discussion between Milo and Dr. Morheim, and obviously we're talking about affordable care. You represent a generation of young people where you've been very effective. We've seen you on Fox News Nation, the Daily Caller, and the Blaze. What are your thoughts on listening to this discussion, and where are young people in terms of, because they're the ones that's going to pay the greatest price and pay the bill for this affordable care?
Well, I agree, and I think going along with what we can all agree with, I think we can all agree that young people use less health care than our older counterparts. And the fact is that under this bill and under this legislation, young people are now being forced to subsidize older Americans to bring down the cost of their health care. And the fact is that young people, one, are affected tremendously by this economy, are now having to pay at least, there was a study that came out from the House Committee on Energy and Commerce a couple weeks ago that says that the increase in the premiums for young Americans is going to be anywhere between 145% and 203%. And just to give an example, in Obama's hometown of Chicago, the average healthcare premium right now is $756. This is expected to increase to $2,300. And if you go around and ask the average young American right now if they can afford to pay $1,600 more on their health care premiums, they're going to say no. I can't even think of an average family right now in this economy that can afford to pay $1,600 more for their child. So the fact is that this is going to only incentivize young Americans to pay up the fine, which is $695. And yet, even that, with the youth unemployment rate right now, it's at 17.6%. I don't even know what average American can cough up $695 to even pay the fine.
How do we help and address her concerns, Doctor?
Well, I was really ran by a bunch of numbers there. I'm going to try and fact check them.
Doctor, are her concerns legitimate?
The nature of insurance is that it's a pool. The bigger the pool, the more the spread is. Yeah, young people will pay for seniors. Seniors pay for education, public schools that young people go to.
Let me
pay for roads and not
bring up this fact.
It's sort of a
average income for young Americans right now is significantly
I do want to point out,
Doctor, let her finish. She just joined us. Let her finish, please. Go ahead, Celia.
There's a study that was released by Forbes that say that older Americans can afford to pay in 1 week the difference between the healthcare costs of younger Americans and older Americans right now. So why are we forcing young Americans to subsidize the older Americans when older Americans can afford to pay the difference when young Americans can't?
Well, first of all, there are parts of the bill...
What's fair about that? I want to know.
Well, the parts of the Obamacare that take care of younger Americans by keeping them on their parents' insurance coverage, because many were...
Yeah, but the fact is, if you're staying on your parents' plan until you're 26, that means you're going to be unemployed or underemployed, because Obamacare either incentivizes or requires businesses to pay for their employees' health insurance. So
you have a very different view of the social contract
if you're staying on your parents' plan until you're 26, you'll be unemployed or underemployed.
Milo said if you have addiction, it's your problem. I mean, if you get in a car accident, you don't have car insurance, I guess you could be bleeding by the side of the road. I have a different sense of what a social contract is than you do. I don't think you speak for all young people. Many young people I know, and I talk to lots of them. I have to campaign for office, so I have to go out and get young people's votes.
If they want to be unemployed or underemployed, they're going to say no.
I actually deal with voters and constituents across the political spectrum, and they're actually pretty happy with the progress. I believe in the last election they had an opportunity to vote against President Obama. Most young people voted for him. Now, you could say they're deluded and don't understand it, but I think actually they're pretty smart and understand what they're doing.
They were not told that they were going to be unemployed or underemployed under this legislation. They were simply told that they were going to be staying on their parents' plan until they're 26, but not that they would be unemployed or underemployed, were they?
Parents or grandparents.
Celia, Doctor, let me shed some light on both of this, because I'm sitting here quietly listening to the two of you, and to some extent, I can honestly say I'm amused. Celia, from your side, I hear the tone of entitlement that we frequently speak about that contradicts the principles of conservative thinking. Doc, on your part, I hear the dialogue of a politician reinforced by the entitlement of a physician who wants the world to be a fair and happy place for all people. The reality of our differences are that they are narrower than they are broad. But the reality of it is really secondary to the underlying subtext. Look, throughout the history of America, in the early days of the development of this country, young people were raised by their parents until such time as they could take over the agricultural farm, and then they were charged with the responsibility of providing care to their parents until their parents' passing. That was the most functional and fundamental form of the very system, Celia, that you are complaining about today, that you should not...
Well, the government wasn't involved with that, were they?
...supporting your parents. Doc, the youth that voted for Obama, many of whom voted for him out of nothing more than ignorance, another large percentage of them voted for him because he represented a paradigm shift from the statistical norm, and in many respects represented a change from the voice that you now deliver to the public airways.
Hold there, Milo. Celia, we appreciate your voice. It's a voice that's necessary, because oftentimes people speak for your generation and never allow you to speak for yourself. It's good to hear your...
Thank you.
Say bye-bye burgers, pass on the pizza, forget the francs. Anytime is party time. Discover Golden Cross's authentic Jamaican-style patties. Beef, chicken, vegetables, soya, spinach, and shrimp. Feast on our great taste sensations. Jerk chicken, oxtail, sliced fish, and much more. Savor the taste of the Caribbean, only at a Golden Cross near you. At family tradition since 1949. GoldenCrossBakery.com.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong-Williams.
Celia Bigelow is organizing students across the nation to get out the vote. She drives to register these students for upcoming elections. Dr. Dan Morheim is a medical doctor. He's also Deputy Majority Leader in the House and serves on the Health and Government Operations Committee. And, of course, Milo is with us every week. Cecilia, I'm just so glad, they have your perspective. And instead of having these men try to speak for young people, and they're so far removed from it, it's just good. I know,
isn't that funny?
Isn't that funny? Have a fresh perspective. No pun intended, gentlemen. But continue, Cecilia, please.
Well, I just think it's funny how how he's saying how, young people were sold a bill of goods, how you can stay on your parents' plan until you're 26. But the fact is that Romney wasn't on college campuses telling these students that, hey, if you're staying on your parents' plan until you're 26, that means you're going to be unemployed or underemployed, because under Obamacare, businesses are required or incentivized to pay for their employees' health insurance. I guarantee that if these students heard that message, that they would be thinking twice about voting for Obama, because, hey, they're starting to feel the heat already now with the news of the rising in their health care premiums. And a lot of students on college campuses are already feeling that pressure, because a lot of college campuses across this nation are already increasing their own student health care plans, and students are outraged about it. And I know this because I have gotten many emails saying how outraged they are. So it's really funny how these old guys think they can speak for students, yet I have firsthand experience because, one, I'm a recent college graduate. I know what's going on, and two, I'm still in contact with a lot of these students on college.
By that reasoning, Celia, you can't speak for anybody over the age of 30. I mean, that's just a false.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, if old guys can't speak for young people can't speak for middle-aged girls. I mean,
can't speak for anyone over 30 because you know what? They're darn right happy that they're being subsidized for their health insurance off of the backs of young Americans, just like politicians in this country are spending their children and their grandchildren's future money to pay off this, to pay for this out of control spending. So yeah, I think people over 30 are pretty darn happy. But guess what? The future of this country isn't happy, and we're having to pay for it. So congratulations.
Perhaps Milo said one other thing, and Milo, I appreciate you. You sound like a nice guy trying to bridge some gaps here, but when I asked, you commented about why young people overwhelmingly voted for Obama. The first thing you said was ignorance. And I'm just going to respectfully disagree. I don't want to characterize young people in America as ignorant. I think the ones that I know are pretty smart, pretty sharp. They studied the issues, they studied the candidates, they knew what they were doing.
Did they know that they were going to be unemployed or underemployed
notwithstanding
under
most of the
Obamacare?
others went another
Did they know
direction.
that?
And that's just the fact. You can call them ignorant, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to praise them for
please
being
answer that
who made
question.
a
Did they know
decision.
that they would be unemployed or underemployed under the Obamacare
I always want to be
legislation if they're staying on their parents' plan until they're
Celia,
26?
Celia, I want to be respectful to all my guests because I do want them to come back. So you're going to get your say-so. I promise you that because I'm glad to have you on. Milo, what were you about to say?
You know, I appreciate the political correctness that Doc presents there, but the facts of it, or that observation of the disproportionate number of the youth voting for Obama being ignorant, was actually a study done that evidence that was actually done from exit polls of students voting for Obama, college-age students voting for Obama, and almost 66% of students interviewed during the exit polls indicated that they voted for Obama simply because he wasn't as old as Romney, B, as was not what they perceived to be status quo, and C, represented a potential change. But they really couldn't identify a single specific program that Obama had promoted that they understood. So when I make the reference that a large portion of the youth that voted for Obama were ignorant to the issues that surrounded the election, that representation is not my personal perception, but the result of exit polls taken of students coming from the polling stations.
Well, there's no doubt that if you I don't know, maybe you have the study, I don't, but I'm going to speculate that the people who voted for Governor Romney did so because they liked other things about him. Look, you lost the election. That's the way it works. But whatever the reasons are, the people vote for candidates. I just want to offer a couple of facts about Medicaid expansion because that's a tough issue. It's a big part of state budgets. It's something we wrestle with here, and every state does, although Maryland, we still are enjoying a AAA bond rating and very sound finances in our state. But Medicaid reduced by 40%. This is a study, New England Journal of Medicine, that people
before you go on to Medicaid,
get payments.
Respond to Celia's question.
Longevity increased, more preventive care. So there is some real value to expanding insurance, at least for that group of people.
You dismiss what Celia was saying relative to the lack of the older generation's sensitivity and understanding of the youth, and you were very dismissive to it. I'm curious. Could you take a moment, Doc, and respond? You're obviously someone with intellectual capacity.
Dismissive. I would call it condescending.
Yeah, I would really like to hear you a tangible response to the representation made by Celia, because I think what she said has some merit, and I don't think it warranted summary dismissal.
Well, what I was responding to was that the idea that Celia speaks for young people, and we're the old folks. And can't. I would just say that was the reverse. Celia can speak for a certain, group of young people that she's connected with, and she's also welcome to offer opinions about what she thinks old people are thinking. Just like I'm a man, sometimes I think about women. I work with women legislators, so I have ideas about men. But I'm also in touch with young people, and I certainly get feedback from them, and that's part of all our abilities to relate as best we can to folks that are like us and to folks that are different than us. And that's my only point.
Celia?
I just don't. I'm not trying to think for old people at all. I never made any comment saying I was. All I'm saying is that it's seen throughout our entire country and in our government that politicians are completely just destroying my generation and leaving my generation to have to pay these massive bills, whether it's in Obamacare or our national debt. And I don't think it's moral when young people who don't use health insurance as often as older people, who don't make as much money as older people starting off, have to subsidize the health care for older people under this legislation. And all I'm saying is that you have to compare what is going on in this economy to this legislation as well. Youth unemployment right now it's been an all-time high under this administration, 17.6% averaged under this administration. That's the current level at that right now, 17.6% youth unemployment. And only 6 in 10 young Americans right now are working, half of which, 3 in 10 of young Americans only have full-time jobs right now. So the fact is that young people simply cannot afford this. It's going to be very hard just to pay the fine for this legislation, and it's completely immoral.
Well, I'm going to agree with Celia about one thing, for sure. The national debt situation is undefensible. There's many causes of it. There's plenty of blame to go around. I'm not a federal legislator. In our state, we have a balanced budget. We have a AAA bond rating. So we don't spend money we don't have. Whatever the cause is, whether it's war, whether it's health care, whatever it is. And I think that really is a key issue that needs to be dealt with. In the meantime, we are going to, I assume, want to take care of folks over middle age and elder age who have health care problems and try and do it in a responsible and safe way.
Is that the national systems we had, Social Security, Medicare, they're all failing. So what does another nationalized system going to do? It's just going to end up failing in the end. It really is. I'm a firm believer in free markets. I believe in competition. I believe that competition between medical industries will drive the cost down of medicine and services. And I believe in privatizing Social Security accounts and healthcare insurance accounts because, honestly, in the end, that's what's going to be most sustainable, not some another nationalized industry that is going to fail.
Well, we've had private industry for a long time, and it got completely out of control.
So that is just
10 years ago, this
add
is
trillions to the debt that my generation is going to have to pay off.
Well, you do have a point there, and I agree that needs to be dealt with. And part of the way to deal with health care costs, because we're not going to, unless you favor denying people health care outright because they don't have insurance, and that's not the law of the land, and generally I don't think most people are going to agree with that, we're going to have to do it. And that's why I emphasize a number of things that are prevention. Celia, have you completed an advanced directive form?
Who?
Have you completed an advanced directive, a living will medical?
No, I have not.
Well, that's your personal responsibility. The 3 most famous cases in American legal history are women under 30 who failed to complete an advanced directive, Cruzan, Quinlan, and everybody knows Terry Schiavo. All that heartache could have been avoided for the last
first of all,
form. I think you should consider doing that and asking all your...
I don't do medical.
And my children that are over 18,
which is also a different story.
Complete advanced directive forms because you never know what's going to happen. And it's more important for younger people because they tend to get in trouble suddenly. Us older people, and I'm not that old, but us older people, we often get a warning sign of a disease. I mean, this is free paperwork. It's totally legal in every state. The national bill was 1990 with President George Bush the first. I mean, there's an example where you need to complete your responsibility there, and I hope you do. And don't take that as a personal attack. A lot of people haven't done this paperwork.
I'm a Christian.
On a crusade to do that.
Zionist. I don't do medical care.
Listen, let me just say this because I know we're out of time. I cannot thank all of you enough for joining us today. Dr. Morheim, Horace Cooper, always Milo Pinckney. But I'm so encouraged when I hear young people like Celia Bigelow, just the passion, the caring, because it gives me hope for the future. And I'm just so proud of you, and I wish you well.
Thank you.
And just always know that we're a resource for you. We support and encourage your endeavors.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
For
more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com.